Welcome to Redtastic. Story 1. Am I the a-hole for refusing to pay my mom rent using a shared throwaway account? I'm in my early 20s and I was living with my father while I attended college. My father suddenly passed away in a car crash early last year, so I was suddenly weighed down with a lot of expenses. I couldn't afford to live there alone. I wasn't paying him rent. I was offering alternative methods of payment like cooking, cleaning, shopping for him, etc. And on top of that, he didn't have a life insurance, so I had to eat the funeral costs. During the funeral, my mom, dad's ex-wife, it was a nasty divorce, offered to let me live with her until I can get back on my feet. Since I would have to put college on hold until I could earn some more money, I agreed and moved in. I was unable to find work for nearly 6 months. During my stay there, I took care of all the household chores. I did 100% of the cleaning, cooking, shopping, and other errands like going to the post office or calling for maintenance appointments. I also did both of our laundry and dry cleaning and made her bed, tidied her bedroom every day. I had access to the guest bedroom, of which I was not allowed to decorate, nor was I allowed to have friends over. My mother would frequently, daily, barge in and did not let me keep the door closed. She would often demand my attention at any moment to rant at me about various things for several hours long. I had zero privacy and was essentially her handmaiden for several months. My therapist used the word covert incest and narcissistic personality disorder to describe the situation. I was a surrogate husband. She used this time to frequently badmouth my father around me, even though I told her often that I was still going through the grieving process and didn't want to discuss him. After a while, I suddenly got a job and was able to move out on my own. My mom is now claiming I owe her rent for the time I lived there. We had discussed rent briefly before I moved in, but she never gave me a quote, and even when I tried to follow up, she never asked me for the money until after I left. There was no official agreement. I told my friend while venting I had no intention of paying. She says I would be an a-hole for not paying, but my logic here is, I was essentially paying rent with my time and effort. Not to mention, yes, I had a bed to stay in, but I didn't really have a room or any privacy. Can you guys help me out? Am I the a-hole? Should I cut my losses and try to save up to pay her back? You're not the a-hole, OP. I'm so sorry for your loss. Your mom offered you no emotional support after the death of your father, and she should be ashamed of herself. It's understandable that she didn't like the man, but she should have kept her feelings aside and respect yours while you were grieving, but no. Instead, she submitted you to days of ranting, and now she wants rent for giving you a place to stay. That was the only thing she gave you when you were in need, and she wants money for it. She really is a bad mother. Now for some comments. This for sure, not the a-hole OP. I too was prepared to tell you to adult and pay rent, but there was no agreement from the start that you would be required to pay rent, so that was the deal. You took the initiative to take care of things around the house and do what you could to help out, even while mom invaded your privacy and demeaned your dad. I'm so sorry for your loss, and I'm so sorry mom is emotionally unavailable for you. I'm glad you moved out. Not the a-hole. She offered a place to stay while you got on your feet, extracted a ton of free labor while you were there, and treated you quite poorly, surprisingly so, and now wants to demand rent after you left without having worked that out in advance. You don't owe it, and she sounds like an unpleasant and extremely selfish person. I'm sorry you had to go through this, and glad to hear you're getting your life back together. Move on in good conscience. Not the a-hole. First off, I'm so sorry for your loss. It sounds like you're handling yourself like a champ. Given the circumstances, you don't owe your mom shit. She didn't lay down any terms for what you would be provided and how much you would pay. If she had given terms for your stay, I doubt you would have agreed to them. No visitors, no privacy, you can't decorate at all, and you're also going to do all the housework. You were a live-in housekeeper. If any money is changing hands, she should be paying you. I haven't even gotten into the psychological gauntlet she ran you through, and you're already not the a-hole. Story 2. Am I the a-hole for refusing to change my mother-in-law's diaper? My wife's mother recently went into hospice due to end-stage dementia. Yesterday, my wife, who had been trading shifts watching her mother with her sister, decided that she wanted to go out to lunch with a friend and told me to watch her mother and keep her comfortable. I'm the worst at taking care of people, but I said yes. About an hour in, I thought I was doing a good job, but then I smelled something foul. It was obvious that she had soiled herself. I didn't want to change her because I promise you I would have thrown up and I know I couldn't handle it. I told her I would call a nurse and did call a nurse 3 times. I came in and out of the room to check on her and try to keep her calm while we were waiting for help. Long story short, my wife beat the nurse home and after changing her mother, lit into me. She expected me to tend to her mom's every need, including changing her messed diapers, wiping her down, and powdering her because that's what taking care of someone means. I said that she's known since we were dating that I don't do smells and can't clean up messes like vomit and feces. I lost my cool when she kept pushing the issue and told her that if it was so important to her, then maybe she should have stayed with her mother, instead of going to lunch without asking her sister to stay with her, and asking me to change her mother without asking me. I would have done it, even want to, but there's just some things I can't do and feel comfortable doing. Her and her sister are both refusing to talk to me and things are extremely uncomfortable. Am I the a-hole? You're the a-hole, OP. You agreed to watch your mother-in-law and changing her diapers, bathing her, etc. are the things you signed up for when you said you would watch her. I understand that it's very uncomfortable and you don't want to, but that's part of what taking care of someone entails. Your wife should have definitely briefed you on all this before going out, but I'm sure she just assumed you knew. Now for some comments. Everyone sucks here. Your wife could have been more clear about what to expect, but then again, maybe you should have known. That being said, I wouldn't be comfortable changing an elderly person. I couldn't do it. Thankfully, both of my parents are total a-holes who will rot in a nursing home before I left a finger. But anywho, everyone sucks here. Not mother-in-law, but you and your wife. You shouldn't have agreed to stay as sole caregiver if you knew you were not capable of performing certain tasks. You also can't expect 2 people, wife and sister, to be there 24 hours a day because you are squeamish. Y'all need to figure something out so you can all have lives while providing proper care for your loved ones. How do you think your mother-in-law feels being left with you, refusing to help her clean herself? You're the a-hole because I'm assuming you know the kind of state she's in as far as needing to be changed. You should have voiced your objections to doing that task before agreeing to watch her. As I agree with your wife, it is implied that if you say you'll watch her, then you need to be there to help. Your wife is probably emotionally going through a lot and deserves some time to relax with a friend. And yes, she should have asked her sister for help. But to be honest, it's not unreasonable for her to count on her husband. Story 3. Am I the a-hole for siding with my mother over my wife on an issue? So at our wedding, my mom gave my wife a number of dresses. It's a cultural thing, her mom did too. Unfortunately, my wife didn't like any of them and refused to wear them. Although I was a little disappointed that she didn't like my mother's gifts, I understood that they have different tastes and didn't push it. At a later time, my mom asked my wife why she never wore those dresses and asked if she would wear them at so-and-so events. On 2 occasions, my wife wore them for my mother, and on a 3rd occasion, when she really didn't want to, we told my mom that we don't want to, and my mom said okay. Now we have an event coming up, and culturally, the elder of the family, in our case my mom, would gift clothes to all their children and grandchildren, etc. My mom gave clothes to all my siblings and their kids. When our turn came, I got clothes as usual, but my wife got money instead. It's worth noting that my mom gave us our things separately so that everyone would not see. When my wife asked her why she's giving her money and not clothes, my mom said that since she figured they have different tastes, my mom figured out that the wife didn't like the clothes and that's why she wasn't wearing them. She didn't want to gift something my wife wouldn't like and felt that it's better if my wife gets something of her own choice. When this happened, my wife got visibly upset and remained that way for the entire duration we were with my family. We were all supposed to go out for dinner together. Everyone noticed that something was off and I whispered to her a few times not to make a scene. When we got home, she said she felt insulted by my mom and that it was passive-aggressive of her to give money and not clothes. I didn't agree and felt it was quite reasonable. My wife is now upset with me too for taking my mom's side. So am I the a-hole? Edit. Just a shout out and thank you to all of you wonderful people. I've been given some very helpful advice on how to talk to my wife about this to understand her viewpoint and what steps to take with both the mom and wife to try and ensure that it doesn't happen again. Lots of love to you all. Now for some comments. Not the a-hole. Your wife sounds annoyingly confusing. Your mother was a saint to take into consideration to give her the cash in a private setting as not to upset her. But I imagine that your wife must feel a tiny bit alienated. As you said, it's a tradition to give your children clothing. I guess she must have taken it in a "am I no longer your daughter-in-law" kind of way. Maybe, I don't know. But regardless, you're definitely not the a-hole here. No a-holes here. Your mom did what she thought would be appropriate and reasonable. Your wife was clearly not expecting it, and if she was the only one singled out that way, I can understand why she would be hurt. Sometimes it really is the thought that counts, and even if she didn't wear them, she doesn't sound like she was ungrateful for them in the past. It probably would have been better for your mother to talk to her beforehand and get a better feel for your wife's taste. No one acted like an a-hole here. And while you may view your mom's actions as reasonable, and they were, you should try to understand why your wife doesn't. She could probably use the support. You're the a-hole. Your mom was trying to do something nice since she understands that your wife didn't like the dresses she received from your mom at the wedding and figures that it's better not to give clothes again. If their tastes are so different, she's not an a-hole. Your wife should not have to wear clothing she doesn't like. As for the monetary gift, money can be very impersonal, especially when everyone else receives a physical gift. The way that you talk about the situation, "my wife didn't like any of them and refused to wear them," makes your wife sound immature and unreasonable, and accusing her of making a scene because she wasn't able to hide that she was hurt was really uncalled for.